There we go. Right. So how many are there? There are 10 of us, I think, at the moment. I guess more people will come in. So what we'll do is we'll go through Olivia's question no, not Olivia, Sophia's question when she's got her supper ready.
Yeah. Sorry.
And that's all right. Sorry, I'm starting with you because you're the only person who sent me a question.
Oh, okay.
So we'll start with Sophia's question, and then basically we'll see if anyone else has got questions. Sophia, can you remember your question?
Oh, yes. Basically, I have a very honey-bound brood box. So there's an awful lot of honey in the brood box. I have larvae and I have cat brood there. No sign of any eggs. I think largely because of the amount of honey and pollen that is in there. However, the bees, I've got a super on. The super's been on for about 3 weeks now, and nobody's going upstairs. So I'm just a little bit concerned as to where where we're going to get eggs, where the queen's going to lay her eggs.
Okay.
My thoughts, and I don't know if that's correct, was to take some of the brood frames with only honey in them out and replace them with frames, undrawn frames. But that was just what I instinctively thought was the right thing to do, but I don't know.
Sophia, have you seen the queen?
No.
Okay. And you haven't seen eggs either?
No.
Okay. So have you got a queen excluder under the super?
Yes.
Okay. So a couple of things there which would suggest that they're not drawing the frames above is, I mean, the weather condition needs to be good. You need to have a queen that's laying well, and there needs to be a nectar flow coming in, and they need to think that they need space. That's one reason why they may not be laying above. Now, I know you're a new beekeeper, so the other thing to do would be to put a drawn frame in the super, if you've got one, to help bring them up. Does that make sense? And also, I would take the queen excluder away potentially, because that also is a barrier to bees moving up. But the critical thing is they've got to have a queen.
Yes.
And from what you just said, there's no evidence that the queen is there, unfortunately.
She was there last time I looked, I looked on Sunday. She was there the Sunday before because there were eggs there.
Yeah. Okay.
But that doesn't mean she's there today. I appreciate that. This Sunday, I appreciate that.
And the other thing to think about is the time in the season. It's the end of June, so a queen in a standard hive would have started reducing her laying by now, and the hive would be at its peak of bees. How old is it? A nuke this year, or is it a last year's nuke?
No, it's last year's.
Okay. So
it's last year's, yeah.
So
what's the temperament of the bees like?
Sorry?
What's the temperament?
Good. Yeah, fine. They're quite happy.
Well, it's small. It's only one brood box all season, which seems quite a slow growing colony.
Yes. I did have a double brood box, which I did discuss with you at the Wern one day, but I just found that quite unwieldy to deal with and very time consuming. Do I need to go, if I have a double brood box, do I need to go through every frame on both brood box?
So tell me, it's single brood box now, is it?
Yes.
Okay, so in your other brood box, have you got drawn comb in there?
In other brood boxes?
No, in the one you took off. What I'm saying to you is, if you take a frame of honey out,
yes,
it's better if you put a frame of comb back in, empty comb.
Yes.
Near the middle. So if the queen is there, you're giving her somewhere to lay, basically.
Yes. Yeah. I can't answer that question definitively.
Okay. But
I will certainly look.
But there are several reasons why the bees aren't drawing the comb above. And you need to have good weather, you need to have a nectar flow, you need to have a strong queen laying. And the season obviously is now moving over into the second half. These are things which are kind of, you need to have, really.
Right, okay.
And the colony seems, if it's it's getting small and hasn't sort of grown greatly, it seems, in this season.
No.
I would say.
I think due to my inexperience, it probably did swarm at some point.
Okay.
I have got a swarm, that I captured, but whether that was from that beehive or not, I couldn't tell you that either.
Uh-huh. Right.
So,
Okay.
so when you saw the queen, was it marked?
No.
What the original one, man?
So what Chris was saying before, have you got spare undrawn frames, brood frames?
I've got spare
Or
undrawn frames. I've got undrawn frames, yes, but I don't
Have you
know
got
that I will find drawn frames.
Oh, you haven't got spare drawn frames.
No, I don't think so, unless I pinch some out of another hive.
Yeah. Oh, wait, you did say you had 2 brood boxes at one point.
I did. Well, they're both full of, they've each got bees in them.
Okay.
Mm.
All right. So that, I mean, that's what I try. I think. Sorry, I was just replying to Hillary because I've caused some confusion by having 2 links, I think.
In your brood box with the honey, is the honey sealed?
Some and some.
So I'd take the queen excluder out, as Chris said,
Yeah.
scratch the cappings off the sealed honey in the brood box,
Yes.
and put the super back on without
Okay.
the queen excluder.
Okay. And literally just break the top off the honey, the sealed honey.
Yeah.
Okay. And that won't all end up in the bottom of the brood box.
All you're doing is taking the wax cappings off.
Right.
Just scrape them off, and then you can scrape those on the top bars. It just opens the honey up for them to use it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll do that.
And they might even move it up.
Okay.
I would say if you've got a spare, or if you can find a super with drawn comb in it, I would put that up there just as a bait frame to draw the bees up. If it's all foundation in the super,
yes,
that can help as well.
And it's all new foundation, because I haven't had the luxury of bees going into supers yet.
No, but how many hives have you got?
4 and a nuke.
Okay, so you've got supers on some of them that
I've got
maybe.
I've got supers on all of them except the nuke.
Right. Okay.
And none of them seem to want to go upstairs, but they're not congested with honey like this one is. That was my concern. The others are just working away quietly.
Okay.
I'm quite happy with them. This was just the one I thought, well, if the queen's there, where's she going to lay her eggs? That was my concern.
How many frames of brood are there in it?
Probably about 6.
Okay, not bad. I mean, bees have been bringing in a lot of nectar, and they've been putting it in the brood box in a lot of my hives. Yeah. So I've been doing what we're suggesting. I've been taking frames out of the brood box, capped ones, and putting in, well, 2 or 3 weeks ago, putting in fresh foundation, or even just a strip of foundation. But we're getting to the stage where they may not want to draw it because of the weather. It's raining with me at the moment, and the nectar flow is still pretty good. My bees are still going out today getting nectar.
Yeah.
But it's not as good as it has been.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you, and I will be patient.
Gone stale.
What was that?
Has the wax gone stale?
The foundation?
Yeah.
Quite possibly. Well, I've used foundation that's 30 years old, and you can get it drawn, but you need a nuke or something like that. You need a really strong colony. It might have gone a bit stale, as Tom says. Yeah, but yeah.
Well, it's fairly new wax. It's fairly new. It's not been around long. It certainly hasn't been around 30 years.
Well, I was given a lot of wax years ago, and just they've drawn it all now. You can get it drawn.
It's tight.
and he's quite tight, yeah.
If it's gone stale, can you refresh it somehow? Can you refresh it somehow if it's gone stale?
I don't think you need to. If you've got old foundation, I mean, you can't really. The answer to that is I don't think you can, unless Roger or Peter can think of how you can do it. I would give it to a strong colony, and they'll draw it. Rog, what were you saying then?
You could spray some sugar water on it or something like that. Just with a bit of weak honey mix or something. Just spray it on the comb. Just gives them something to clean up.
To encourage them up there.
Yeah.
also to clean the stale wax as well. Yeah.
Or if you got a nice sunny day, you could just put it out quickly in the sun. If it's dull and old, if it's in the sun, you'll see it kind of change colour, but you don't want to leave it out too long, otherwise it'll just melt. But that'll just freshen it up a little bit.
But my experience is a strong growing nuke will draw anything almost. And in fact, I ran out of brood comb a few weeks ago, and I'm just putting strips at the top. And the queens much prefer laying in comb that hasn't got foundation, hasn't had foundation. Anyway, yes, I don't know if that helps at all. But...
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Right. So Hilary is still trying to join us, and I think she's gone to my original meeting. Oh no, she's telling me she's had to attend to something else. That's sorry. Right then. Anybody else want to ask a question? Claire.
Can I've been reading up about icing sugar and things like that, and because now icing sugar they put this anti-caking agent in it, which is basically corn flour, and everybody is saying that corn flour is not very good for bees. Is that when we're going to be doing our varroa thing? Is it just normal icing sugar that we'd be using?
Unfortunately, Bronwyn's not here, but I don't know. Pete, you do a bit of icing sugar treatment, don't you?
No. It is just ordinary icing sugar. I mean, the amount you use is. I assume you mean for the varroa drop test.
Yeah.
You only use a teaspoon of it anyway. I wouldn't worry too much. It's
okay.
Yeah.
Because they were suggesting on the forum that you made your own icing sugar out of granulated sugar, and I was thinking, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you do that? How do you do it?
In the liquidizer.
Yeah, liquidizer.
Grind it.
A coffee grinder, yeah.
So there we go. That sounds quite simple enough, doesn't it? If the forums are saying that, then I would probably do what they're saying, I think.
Right, okay.
But Bronwyn should have been here, but she's not here. She would have been able to tell us. And she did a demonstration of icing sugar already at the Wern.
Yeah.
She used normal icing sugar, I think.
Yeah,
she did. She did.
It was normal icing sugar she used.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. I didn't question it.
And the olive.
What was that, Tom? No.
I watched. If you watch various different people or listen to various different people, a lot of people don't like the sugar test.
Right.
What's wrong with it, Tom?
I don't know. That if you listen to like Randy Oliver and people like that, they kind of go away from it because it doesn't do too much to too good to your bees. The varroa don't seem to come off as easy.
No, Randy Oliver, he's moved much more to oxalic acid, hasn't he? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the icing sugar. I mean, when you're using it to test in a varroa test, Bronwyn uses it just a teaspoon in a container, and you put about 300 bees in the container. A teaspoon of icing sugar and give it a good shake, and then the bees will drop out. No, not the bees. The varroa will drop out. But you only use a teaspoon of icing sugar anyway. So, but you don't.
They look quite dusty, so I thought they added. It looked more than a teaspoon, but yeah.
Yeah, but I think with Randy Oliver, because at one time people used to use icing sugar and
do the whole
throw it in a band and kind of into a brood nest, and then kind of look at the varroa drop on the tray underneath the hive. But that's kind of not effective now.
Okay. Very good. What should we be doing this week? What should we be doing this week?
What should we do? Oh, well, what I'm doing this week is I'm taking supers off and extracting them. I've got so much honey on my hives. I'm taking them off and putting them back extracted, purely because they're still bringing in blackberry, and
Yeah.
take them off, empty frames, they'll fill them again, or they might do, they should do. In your case, I mean, you can just continue looking at them weekly because your hive's quite relatively new in that sense.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know, Roger, what would you be doing?
Well, so have you taken any supers off that were around in the rape period? Because I've taken some off this week and they are starting to set in the combs. So I'll just check you haven't got any rape lying around in your hives, especially with the weather going cooler, because it will solidify.
Yep.
Can I ask you on? Can I ask a view on when you're talking about extraction, you're putting your wet supers back on? Merits of nadiring. My understanding of that is putting it below the brood box initially, because obviously they draw honey up, or just putting them back on top. Views of the experts, please.
I don't know about the experts. I put mine back on top.
Okay.
Yeah.
Roger?
Yeah, after the 21st of June, I always put my supers, empty supers on top. Before the 21st of June, I'll put them underneath.
Can you explain the logic for that one? 21st of June looks a very specific, middle of the year, obviously.
Middle of the year, yeah. It's sort of when your brood nests have reached their maximum size and they're starting to shrink again.
Okay.
So they tend not to fill the space in that first super above the brood nest. They leave a lot like arches in it that are empty.
Yeah.
So if you put your empty one underneath and move the one up, they'll fill those arches up.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But as a brood nest contracts now, it's not so important.
Yeah.
So they'll fill that up anyway, and they'll just if they need extra space, they'll put it on top.
Okay, thank you.
What I'm seeing is some of my hives, the bees are bearding out the front quite a lot. And often that's an indication to me that they need more space. And as we've already talked about, they're filling the brood box with nectar. So in my case, I can go and put a super on top, or I can just take a super or two off and extract it, give them the space back, and then the bearding disappears. Of course, if they beard like that and you don't do anything about it, they might decide to swarm.
Yeah. Thank you.
Something to think about.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anybody got quick
yeah,
problems?
I've got a question.
Tina,
I've got a
yes.
question. As a very new newbie, what can we expect going into July now? I mean, I've only had my bees less than a fortnight, but there's obviously the season is moving on. So what would we expect going into July? Now it's cooling down.
Have you just received a nuke from somewhere?
Yeah, I've had it not even a fortnight. So I think something like that. Fortnight.
You've put it into a full hive box?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you looked at it weekly?
I've looked at it once so far, and Rich is very kindly going to come look at it again with me this week.
What's it doing?
It had filled out it had 5 frames, so it had filled out. There was one extra frame of brood that wasn't there the first when we put it in. And it started to fill out its 5 frames, but it hadn't moved into any of the new foundation that was around it. So I'm kind of hoping it might have drawn a bit more comb between now and when I put it in. But
a nuke should do that this time of year. A standard hive is reducing, but a nuke will continue to grow.
Okay, that
should continue to grow. You've got to keep an eye on the nectar coming in. They will need a flow of nectar, and so keep an eye on what's coming in. Keep an eye on the bramble. Keep an eye on the hive. Make sure they've got enough stores. Because if the nectar flow suddenly stops, we haven't had a June gap this year. Some people are saying we're going to have a July gap. We might do. Yeah. And if you just got to keep an eye on it, and if they run out of stores, you want them to keep drawing the comb. So in your case, you may have to start feeding syrup.
Yeah, which Rich is my mentor here, Rich Rumsey, and he suggested that. Have I got any feed going on? I haven't as yet, but he's going to hopefully help me with that this weekend. I'm hoping Rich is listening. So that is to help encourage them to draw the comb.
Yeah, you want them to build up, get as much comb drawn as possible, as much stores in there,
Yeah.
for them to go into winter in as best state as possible.
Right. Okay. And when you say a feed, is that a feed that we can make just with sugar and water?
You can, or you can buy syrup
Right.
from somewhere, from Sam Davis.
Okay. And what does the syrup have that sugar and water doesn't?
It has thymol or something in it that stops it from fermenting or going off.
Oh, okay.
It's a
If you
very
mix-
high concentration, isn't it? I don't think it has thymol in it.
It has, but it has something that stops it from fermenting in it. I don't know what it is.
It's inverted.
It's inverted.
It's,
Yeah, there you go.
It's
Yeah,
inverted. And it's a
Right.
higher concentration of sugar that you'll ever be able to kind of make yourself
Oh,
at home.
okay. Right. Okay. Fine. Right. Okay.
So inverted means that it's all monosaccharide. It's all glucose and fructose. It's not complex sugars,
Right. Okay.
which is what the bees do to nectar. They convert nectar from complex sugars into glucose, fructose, which are both monosaccharides.
Right. Okay.
That's what inverting means.
Yeah.
Right.
But sugar and water would be ideal for them to draw the comb with.
Oh, it
And
would.
cheap,
That would-
and cheaper, yeah.
and cheaper. Okay. Okay. Right.
And
Fine.
I put a little bit of vinegar in mine to stop it. If they leave it, it'll start to ferment.
Right.
To stop it fermenting, you can put something like a bit of citric acid in it or something. A little bit.
Right.
It's a
Okay.
very small amount. But yeah, to draw comb,
Right.
that's all they need.
Okay.
So that's what you should be looking at with a nuke at this stage of the year. Rich will guide you on that.
Yeah.
But for the rest of us, it's keeping an eye on the nectar flow, and as we were talking about before, and taking off supers as and when needed, and watching out for anything that, like when the bramble. Hopefully, the bramble will continue. We might get some heather. I don't know, Claire Foster, if you've seen any nice heather up on the mountains.
Not in flower yet. Not in
Okay,
flower.
good. No, it won't be in flower yet. But hopefully, like last year, it might come into flower late July, August.
Lots of bramble. Yeah, but and clover.
Clover. That's what mine are feeding on the clover
Good.
at the moment.
Lots of white clover.
Yeah.
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 Right, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got fields of white clover.
You're lucky, Sophia.
I've
I
got
tell you,
the
hey,
lawns of
seriously, if you've got white clover, your bees should. I mean, mind you, clover needs to be quite warm for it to secrete nectar.
Yeah, I have a question.
It does depend on the clover, because some of the
Yeah.
agricultural clovers are no good.
Yeah, well, this is agricultural clover.
What's the difference? What kind of clover is good then?
Wild.
Wild clover is
Wild
good.
one.
Aberystwyth University have developed a clover that puts a lot more nitrogen back into the soil, but it
Yeah.
doesn't secrete any nectar.
no. My lawns are covered in white clover, and that's what they seem to be foraging on. So hopefully that's good because it's not agricultural.
No.
As long as you see your bees on it, then
Yeah, they are.
you know it's providing something, pollen and nectar.
Good.
And thistles. Lots of thistles.
Thistles are great. Yeah,
Oh, they like that too. We got those
Yeah.
as well. Okay.
grey pollen coming in can be thistle. It can
Yes.
be
Great. Yeah. there's
bramble
lots
as
of
well.
grey
It can be
pollen.
bramble as well. It can be either thistle or bramble.
Okay.
I have a question, two questions, but I've forgotten what the second one is. The first question, anyway, I'll remember while I'm talking. My nuke, which is a captured swarm, at what stage should I put it into a proper brood box?
How full is it?
It's all but two of the outside frames,
What are those outside frames still?
undrawn.
Yeah, wait until they've drawn those frames.
Okay, and I am feeding them.
Good. Yeah, I say wait until they feed. I mean, if they're starting to bulge out and they still haven't drawn them, then I might move them over. But ideally, they draw those frames. You want
So-
them to.
I wouldn't look to winter them in there. I'd put them in a hive for the winter.
Is it a poly nuke?
No, polynuke, yes, but I'll put them into a national cedar.
Sophia, up to you. I overwinter a lot of nukes in poly hives, okay? and they come through very, very well. Yeah.
Okay.
It's up to you. It all depends on the size of it. If it grows
Okay.
enough to put into a hive, then put it into a hive.
You
Okay.
could always move the outside frames in
Right.
Yeah.
towards the middle, get them to draw them out. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, just one at a time though.
Yeah.
You don't want to split. You don't want to split it too much, otherwise it'll get too cold in the box.
Okay.
So Sophia, you understand that? Move one of one of the frames on the outside. Move it in one frame.
Just one frame in.
Swap it with the one on the outside. Yeah, the outside with the one next to it.
And then the following week, do the same on the other side.
Depending on what they do with it, they should draw it.
Okay.
The good nuke should draw it. They should draw comb. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, once they've done the one, then move the other one.
Okay. Boy, it's good to have you boys on telling us all this information.
Well, you know,
I don't know what I'd do without you.
They should draw it where it is, but they will draw it quicker, as Roger and Peter say, if you move one in at a time.
Yeah.
So I suppose I could do that with mine as well. That's got the new ones on the outside. I could bring one in at a time and move one out a little bit, perhaps.
Tina, you could. It's what Claire Forster's done with hers nuke that we moved into a box. Yeah, she brought the foundation in, and they're drawing it okay, aren't they, Claire?
Yeah.
Okay, that worked for you, Claire. Okay, that's something to think about.
But you've got to make sure they've got a flow coming in, i.e. nectar or syrup.
Right. Okay.
Yep. And the temperature's got to be up there as well. They don't like drawing comb if it's cold.
Oh, okay. The weather's not looking good for the next couple of weeks, is it? It's more of this.
But it's 18 or 19 today. That should be okay.
Yeah, I suppose they were out more today than they were yesterday. Okay.
Oh, I've remembered my question. I've got a lot of laurel around the garden, and the bees absolutely love it, but I can't really see what they're loving.
Right.
There's no flowers as such.
Is there honeydew on it?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. What
are the leaves sticky? Are the leaves sticky on it?
Well, it's more like in the branch where the stem and the leaf takes off. They seem to be in that branch where the leaf branches off from the stem.
I think laurel will have nectaries, but it's where I don't know where the nectaries are. Maybe that's where their nectaries are, where they secrete nectar. I really don't know. I'd have to look it up.
Okay. Well, they're covered. The laurel is covered in bees.
But it says, as Roger says, it could be you've got insects on it, aphids or something, or other insects, and the bees are taking the excess fluid off the bees, which is called honeydew, off the insects, the aphids.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'll have a much closer look.
But my bees are all over the oak. I've got a couple of oak trees. They're all over the oak trees at the moment.
Oh, are they?
And what are they looking for there, do you think?
That's honeydew.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine too. Mine too.
We've got a lot of oak around us, so I should look for that.
If the leaves are sticky, and often you'll walk under an oak tree and it can be buzzing, and you think, "Well, is this warm?" But actually, it's not. The bees are there, getting the honeydew.
Does the same happen with sycamore?
I'm not aware of it with sycamore. Sycamore is a great honey tree for bees.
But it's the season.
The flowers have gone. Yeah, the flowers come in May.
It's gone.
The flowers usually come before hawthorn.
Yeah. Okay.
You'll often find sycamore leaves are a bit sticky, don't you?
That's what I was saying. Yeah, our sycamore is very sticky. Yeah.
Yeah. Have a look. See if the bees are interested in it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Claire,
I've got a question.
Oh, Tina, you've got another question.
Can I just ask a quick question? It's not really bee related, but it's similar. In our garden in the last 3 weeks, we found 5 separate wasps' nests. Has anybody else got issues with wasps this year?
Not yet.
No. We've had 5.
Well,
just discovered.
Yeah, you found the nest. The bees the wasps aren't bothering your bees, though, are they?
Well, one of them was very close to my brand new bees that came in, so I wasn't happy about that. So I dispatched that one.
Okay.
But I found another one today. But they're in different spots, wood stores mainly around the garden, and cavities in my garage roof. And one was in an old incinerator wood metal bin, and it's right next to my hive. So I was like, I'm not having that. So but I was just wondering, I've never seen wasps nests in my own garden before here. Well, certainly not last year. I was just
think-
wondering if
You're
anybody
into-
else had had.
I think if
You're
David,
into insect diversification.
yeah. If David Coles was in this call, he would say that wasps are endangered species, actually.
I know.
So
He likes a good wasp, doesn't he? Yeah.
he likes a social insect, I would say, but
Social or antisocial.
or antisocial. They will become antisocial when they finish feeding their larvae, and they want they want some sweetness. Then they'll start pestering the hives. And a nuke, you've got to watch out for a nuke. You may have to reduce the entrance quite a bit.
Yeah, or dispatch the wasps.
Or dispatch the wasps. Yeah.
I didn't say that out loud. Anybody?
No, it's all right. I'm not recording it.
Oh yes, you are. Yeah.
Hi, Chris. It's
Claire.
Claire.
Hello, Claire.
Yeah, I just realised I've been on mute. Why? I haven't said anything.
I can hear someone's TV. Someone's television on. No,
Not mine.
Not mine.
Can't hear the thing now.
someone's got some background noise on. There, it's gone off. Right. Yeah, Claire. Sorry.
Yeah,
Thanks for turning that off.
just going back, the question that I asked, but I was muted, I realise. You talked on the icing sugar issue. I mean, I can't see me using icing sugar. I don't know enough about it. But you said that Bron puts 300 bees in a jar or something. How do you know how much 300 bees is?
It's a cup, isn't it? She'd used a cup.
She just used a pint or something. I think a cup. Yeah. Just
She
a
did
guess.
show us, and you put a line and you fill them up in from a washing up bowl, wasn't it?
So a cup is 300 bees. A cup of bees is 300 bees. Good grief.
A pint, wasn't it? I don't know. It was a measure.
It was
That's
some
not a
kind of a
pint.
measure, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a
So-
mug full.
Yeah. A mugful.
Yeah.
Right,
mugful.
okay.
We could test it with prawns.
Stop it. Yeah, okay.
Who said that? Oh.
My partner.
You can test it with prawns. Hello.
He's listening in. He
No,
helps
that's
me
good.
when I-
That's all right. Yeah, good. Well, Bronwyn said she'll join shortly, but I don't know if she is going to join shortly. Anyway,
That's okay.
but if she does, we can ask her those questions.
All will be revealed on the varroa night.
We've got
I
a
just
varroa
find
night.
it interesting. People ask me how many bees are in my hives, and I just can't tell. Lots is what I usually say.
You
Tens
mean
of
you don't
thousands.
count them regularly?
Mine all have names.
Yes, I have a roll call as they come in.
You count them in and count them out every day.
Yeah. Go see how many get lost in the field.
Numbers on the jumpers, it's easier.
Has anybody got problems with queenlessness?
I wouldn't know.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not in my new.
Hopefully not.
No.
I
All
thought I had.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought I had, but on my last inspection, I've got 3 hives which are okay. I've got one with this laying worker, and or laying workers, and I'm just decided because I've got 3 hives that I know are doing okay now. That 2 are, one's really strong, 2 are okay, and 3's enough for me, really. I think so. I'm just going to let that one go.
But if you're going to let it go, is it next to another hive? Is it near another hive?
It is near enough. It's they're all 4 together.
So if you went and shook those bees out far away, the bees will come back to another hive.
Well, I thought I
Don't put the
might do
hive
that.
back.
Yeah, I thought I might do that this week because I can take them to the top of the field or halfway up the field and shake them. I was going to do it when I inspected, but I had actually moved my swarm from the nuke into a hive and which was next to it. And I just thought there was quite enough going on, so I thought I'd leave it a bit. But I might do that then this week.
That's what I do. Don't bother trying to requeen them.
No, I didn't think I would. I don't need 2 really. I've got 3 which I'm happy with. So
Can I ask, how do you know if you've got a laying worker and not a laying queen? What are the signs?
The first signs are, right, you don't get laying workers until your hive has had absolutely no brood in it for some days or weeks. So you realize that
Right.
it's usually what happens is, a typical scenario is the colony will swarm, and
Okay.
they'll have a new queen in it, and you might or might not see that new queen, and you wait for that new queen to come into lay, and you wait, and the bees are polishing the cells, getting ready for the new queen to lay. And then you start thinking, oh, is there a queen? Isn't there a queen? And you start thinking, shall I put a test frame in of eggs, or just a few cells of eggs, as we did in the Langstroth that there were last week? So you're not wasting a frame of eggs. And if you don't do any of those things and the queen isn't there, the workers will start laying, and they can only lay drones. And if you start seeing, there are telltale signs. If you see eggs on the sides of the walls of the cell, or you see several eggs in one cell, but there's a period when it's been totally broodless before that happens.
Yeah. With mine, Chris, I realised that it was a laying worker, so I got a lot of queen cells in another hive. So I took 2 queen cells sealed from the other hive and put them into the laying worker hive. They hatched. We saw the queen. She came out, inspected, saw her, but a bit later on, nothing.
How long ago was that?
Oh, ages now.
Ages.
Yeah,
okay. And you're pretty sure that they are laying workers?
Yeah, it's just there's more. Yes, it's getting weaker and weaker, and there's just
it'll get weaker and weaker. But if you're seeing eggs in there, right? Are they scattered, or are they in a brood pattern?
There's scattered eggs. All the brood that's sealed is drone brood.
Okay. Oh, you've got sealed brood. All right. Okay.
Yeah, it's just.
Did you show them out?
No, Claire's going to do it this next inspection. She hasn't shaken them out yet.
Because I tried to see if they'd accept a queen from these queen cells, and it definitely hatched, and we definitely saw her in there, but they must have killed her, presumably.
Yeah, but did you shake the suspected laying workers out before you put the queen cells in?
Because I've only really got to grips and understood that since.
Well, they'd probably kill any queen anyway if you new queen in.
Now I think I'll just shake them out and let them go into the other 3 hives. But it's a good lesson for me, because the actual taking the queen cells out and putting them into the other hive, that worked. If I'd shaken them out first, it might have worked better.
Yeah.
Peter makes a very good point there. Peter makes a very good point. If you're going to put a queen cell in something like that, do shake those bees out first.
Yeah, we had the same problem with the laying workers, and we shook them out at the top of the field.
Yep.
They went back to the hive, and then we requeened it.
Yep.
And it worked. But we did what the lady did, exactly the same. We put a queen in before we shook them out, and they killed them.
That's very interesting to hear that, Tom.
Okay.
You see, that's learning from experience. That's great.
And that hive now is doing really well.
So you see, if you persevere, as Tom has, you can make it work. Personally, I don't bother if I get laying workers. I don't really want the hassle of doing it. But there's an example, Tom, where you made it work. That's great. Did that make sense to everybody? Yeah.
No, not really.
No. Okay. Tom, tell us what you did again.
I understood what you did, but I
Yep.
don't understand why you need to shake them out before you requeen. What's the difference? What's happening? Because the same bees are going back into the same hive, presumably.
Well, this is the crux. The theory is, right, the laying workers have developed their ovaries.
Right.
They become heavier, maybe, and they don't make it back to the hive.
Ah. Oh. Okay.
That's the theory. I mean, I've not seen any research that's proven this, but that's the theory.
I've read all sorts that say it works, and others that say you're wasting your time, it doesn't work, they can get back into the hive, but it's probably worth a go if you want to give it a try. I've decided for next time. I know what to do next time, I think, if I can be bothered.
Well, you see, Tom put a queen in, right? Now, if any of those laying workers had got back in, that queen might easily have been killed. That's my experience.
Yeah, that's what happened. That's what, when we first did it, we put a queen in.
Yeah.
Thinking that the queen would, you know, take over the laying workers. And obviously, what you said, it didn't work because they killed the queen. We found her in the bottom of the hive dead. So I took the box up into the top field, which is 50, 60 meters away, and stuck them into the long grass, and had another box at the bottom of the apiary where the hives was, and within minutes they were all back in. We put a new queen in, and everything's hunky dory now.
That's a great story. You know, I can take encouragement from that, Tom.
And when I went up the next day to where I shut the bees out, there was still a small cluster of bees on the floor.
Right.
I read quite an interesting, I don't know, I Googled it when I was looking about what to do, and it was about laying workers. And I found it very interesting, saying that it's the pheromone from the uncapped larvae that is what will prevent them laying.
Yeah.
And you have to still keep on top of it, and you can, you know, it seemed very complicated. I don't think I'd ever try putting a queen I'd paid for in, but I did think I would probably try in future with queen cells that were cut out, because I'm trying to stop swarming from another hive. But it seemed like you have to keep doing it, because every time the cells are capped for the larvae, then you've got to make sure there's fresh larvae again to stop them.
Otherwise, hopefully your queen starts laying. Your new queen will. But there's also another theory that says a new queen won't lay until the old queen's larvae have all emerged. Right now, I don't know if I believe that fully, but these are all things that you just need to be aware of. The telltale signs are that the bees are polishing the cells in the middle of the frame. They're expecting a queen to start laying, and that sort of tells me that if they're doing that, they believe that they've got a queen in there, right? Even if you can't see her. So, but the thing is, how long do you wait? Now, I've got a nice nuke that has lost its queen. So, and they're in this situation, and there aren't any laying workers in there yet. But I took a frame out of a really nice colony that I'm quite happy to breed from, and I put it in there just to see what they do. You know, if they haven't got a queen, they'll make a queen, but they've now got larvae. So the queen, if she is there, will be okay, and the workers won't lay because they've got larvae in there. So this is called the eggs test, right? People talk about the eggs test, the larvae test. You're testing to see what the bees do with it. If they don't make a queen, then they've got one. If they do make a queen, they didn't have one, and you would have had laying workers.
I did something similar to that with another one of my hives, because I got this laying worker hive, and I didn't want it to happen again. I've got another hive that I just wasn't sure about. There was sealed brood, but I hadn't seen eggs, and it seemed a bit weak and didn't seem to be much going on. So I put from a healthier hive, I could afford to put a frame that I knew had eggs in it. But actually the next week, there were no queen cells, but we spotted the queen. So
there you go. Yeah.
It was okay.
But you see, it's such a big investment. A frame of eggs this time of year, taking it off a colony, you know, you're depleting their resources. Now, we did it at the Wern last week. Roger gave me a 14 by 12 frame, but the colony he took it from had 17 frames of brood. That's not a problem, right?
That's all right.
But in the Langstroth hive, we've only got one Langstroth in the teaching apiary, and that's queenless. So we wanted to make sure that it didn't get laying workers. So there, Roger went and got me some eggs, and he put it into the middle of a frame. So you put them perpendicularly. So you push these eggs in perpendicular. So you're not wasting a whole frame of eggs and larvae. You're just taking some eggs, pushing them in, giving them the chance to make a queen if they need to, but by only using a small amount of larvae or brood.
Oh, that's interesting.
Does that make sense? So you can use a pair of scissors to cut it out, or a knife out of another frame, and you're not you're not pulling resources from another hive in that sense.
I try that in future, I think, because the one that I took it from is doing okay, but that sounds like a really good idea.
Of course, the other thing you can do is, I mean, this Saturday, Roger is going to do some queen rearing. So if anybody wants to do some what we call grafting, where you graft a young larvae into a queen cup, you can try it. And that's also something else you can do. Do a little bit of grafting and put your grafting bar in that hive. If they want a queen, they'll make a queen. And you're not wasting, again, a frame of brood. That makes sense?
Yeah. I'd love to come this Saturday and I just can't. So hopefully there'll be another chance to see that happening another year.
Oh, I'm sure there will be, but it's all of these different things that you can do to stop workers from laying, for example. Use the technique of queen rearing, which is what I've just explained.
Apart from having that hive stolen, the laying worker thing is the thing that's frustrated me the most since I started. It's just really annoying.
It is very frustrating.
Yeah.
What's also frustrating is non-laying queens that you can't find.
Yeah.
I don't think I've had that yet. I hope I don't get that one. It's enough challenges.
I had a really nice colony that came through the winter. Had a lovely queen in it. I looked at it periodically, and it just didn't. The queen didn't lay any eggs, and these bees were getting blacker and shinier and blacker and shinier. But they weren't wasting energy. They weren't going out foraging. They were waiting and waiting and waiting, hoping this queen would lay. Eventually, I just took her out, snuffed her out, gave them a virgin queen, and they're back to normal. But these bees lasted literally 7 months. So it just shows you how resilient they are. Bees wear themselves out. In this particular hive, they hadn't wasted their energy because they weren't feeding any young bees. Yeah. So they were being very, very economic with their stores, waiting for their queen to lay, but she never did. Lovely looking queen, just didn't do anything.
What amazed me about this laying worker hive I've got is how long it's lasted. I can't believe that I've still got so many bees in it.
Yeah, quite, yeah. Well,
it's been most of this season.
The thing with laying workers is that the foragers will go out and forage because they've got larvae to feed, right? Even though they're the drones of the laying workers. Yeah. So the drone will just die out in the end. I mean, the colony will just die out in the end because there are no new workers coming into the hive.
Yeah, but it's taken an awful long time.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I'll shake them out this week and we'll see what happens then.
Yeah, I think that's what I do.
I thought it would die out much more quickly than it has. I think they've just got food in there and they've just been, eating.
Sometimes they might abscond. Anyway, right. Sorry, I'm eating my supper. Anybody?
It's nice.
Yeah, very nice.
No.
Curry. Various bits of curry. Yeah.
I have a. Can you explain to me? I know you're an advocate of a double brood box.
What? I'm not. Go on. Yeah, go on.
Are you not?
No, I have brood and a half.
Brood and a half.
What is brood and a half then? Brood in a super and in a brood box.
You have, yeah, that's right, exactly. You have a brood box and a super. Roger has double brood.
Okay.
So go on, Sophia. What was your
14 by 12?
Peter has 14 by 12.
Okay.
Not sure what Rich has, but anyway. Is he there? He's gone.
Single brood.
What do you have? Sorry, Rich, what do you have?
Single brood, and I've got a couple on double brood.
All right. Anyway, Sophia, what was your question?
So my question is, if I've got a double brood, which I did have, and then I found it too unwieldy, and I just basically just split them.
Right.
As far as my honey production goes, I'm more likely to get a lot more honey production on a double brood or a brood and a half.
I'll let Roger answer that one. Or, I don't know, Rog, what's the benefit of double brood, Rog?
I find it quicker to look through them because when I inspect them, I just split the two brood boxes and look at the bottom bars of the top box and if there's no queen cells there, and you can generally judge the amount of space that the bees have got,
Yeah.
I'm happy. So just put it back together and
Okay,
move on to
so-
the next one.
If there's going to be queen cells, they'll be vertical, hanging down off that top. brood box.
It's not 100%, but
Oh.
it's good enough for me.
But you can
Okay.
do the same with brood and a half. You can lift the half up. This is what I do. I do the same, but I do it with the half, right?
Okay. So
But-
you've got,
Just to answer your question, right? If your bees are struggling to fill double brood, then that's down to your queen, right? Roger
Yeah.
has particularly prolific queens that will fill up 2 boxes and then
Right.
go and fill many supers.
right,
So it's all down to the queen. Now you've got a queen that's just filled 1 box, right?
Yeah.
And you're asking why they're not drawing the comb. Not a particularly prolific queen.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Things to think about. Types of queen types. So it's queen rearing. This is where queen rearing comes into its own,
okay,
and why you might want to do it yourself.
Trouble with
because-
brood and a half is you got different size frames,
Yeah, true.
and I always find that. I mean, I've got standard with half brood as well, but I always find it really frustrating. You got different size frames. I think it limits you as to kind of what you can do with various manipulations and that. But other
you
people
can't-
like
you
Chris,
can't
they
swap
love
them in and
brood
out.
and a half.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, what was that?
So is Peter saying you can't then swap them in and out because you've got either a super frame or a brood frame?
Yeah, you're restricted because
Yeah.
you got supers
Okay.
and brood. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's what you like really. I find
A brood is very heavy to lift when it's full of honey. That would
Oh,
more
yeah,
of a
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Super's heavy enough.
What I didn't like when I tried it was that when you lift it, half where it's split, all the larvae are all half exposed, and it just it's like you're breaking the brood in half, and I hated
Yeah.
that. I couldn't bear it.
Anyway, Bronwyn has joined us. Hello, Bronwyn.
Hello, Bronwyn.
Welcome to the session.
hi,
We've got questions about icing sugar we're going to ask you in a minute.
What have you guys been talking about so far?
What was that?
What have you been talking about so far?
Laying workers, getting combs drawn, what to expect in July. But before we come on to you, have we finished with talking about double brood, Sophia? Did you want to was there anything else you particularly wanted to know about that?
no, not really. I think you've answered my question.
I think if you want double brood, you need quite prolific queens.
Yes, I need to know, my hive needs to be strong enough before I put a second brood box on, which I had that situation in the spring, and it was absolutely rammed with bees, and they were wanting more space all the time. And I think I spoke to you about it, and you said put another brood box on, which they filled very, very quickly.
Okay.
I thought, I can't go through all these frames every time. But then you answered my question where you just go look at the bottom to see if there's any queen cells. But I was going through every frame, looking at them.
Sophia, what Roger and I do, it's the sort of thing you can do if you've got 20 or 30 hives, right? Because you don't mind if they swarm. I mean, you do mind, but the odd one, in my case, will swarm, right?
Chris, what we did.
Yes.
We had
a Tom.
Yeah. We had a brood box on the bottom, queen excluder, brood box on the top.
Yeah.
And kept swapping the brood from the top to the bottom. From the bottom to the top. Vice versa, and that's worked really well.
Yeah, I think Roger does that as well. But yeah, that is the benefit of double brood, or that double brood box.
It just gives you, and then you don't have to inspect the top box. You only have to do 2 frames in the top box that you've moved.
But you do have to take that second box off.
Yeah, you still take it off,
Okay. Oh, I got lots to think about, haven't I?
You've got lots to think about, yes. And it's all good stuff. Yeah.
It doesn't get heavy.
As long as you get honey, that's the main thing. No, it's not the main thing. It's nice.
If you've only got 3 or 4 hives, you need to be kind of going through them properly.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so Bron,
Yeah,
icing sugar, the icing sugar test.
yeah, the roll.
Who was asking?
Yep.
Who asked about icing sugar? Claire did.
was-
Oh, Claire, yeah.
Yeah, because they put the anti-caking agent into the icing sugar, it's as to whether, and people were saying that that's not very good for the bees. Is it, I mean, is that true? And they were suggesting that you made your own icing sugar by grinding up granulated sugar. It's the anti-cake.
Who's they?
It's the forum, you know, with the
Not
forum.
us, not this group.
Yeah, no, not this week, but in the reading, and it does. I mean, that's what they used for the anti-caking agent. They put corn flour into our normal icing sugar now.
Yeah, that's probably, to be honest, what dislodges the varroa, actually. So
the corn
The
flour.
corn flour does. Ron, your signal's a bit weak.
Oh yeah, I've got a new Wi-Fi and it's a bit rubbish, to be honest. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, turn your video off might be better.
Yeah, is that better?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so the idea with icing sugar is it basically it helps to dislodge the varroa mites from the adult bees, so you get an idea of the adult, the varroa mite infestation of the adult bees. So as to what particular property of the icing sugar is that does that, I couldn't tell you. And as to whether the corn flour is bad for the bees, again, I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Okay, I think that, yeah.
But in the whole scheme of things, that the importance to discover whether you've got varroa or not is greater than the fact that the corn flour might or may not harm the bees, surely.
I think my first question would be what harm and what evidence, because it's not something that I've come across.
No, me too.
It's quite easy for people to say that stuff's bad for bees.
Yeah.
And obviously we're concerned beekeepers, right? We don't want to do stuff that's bad for our bees. But if there's no actual evidence for this, or I mean, I would be interested to know what the actual evidence is that it's bad for bees, and in what way. But it's not something I've come across. And like Sophia says, it's really important to know what kind of varroa infestation you've got. Icing sugar is a sort of relatively unintrusive way of achieving that. I think the CO2 is probably the best because the icing sugar is probably quite unpleasant for them. But the alcohol wash kills the sample of bees. I think the CO2 is the best because it just kind of like knocks them out.
Yeah.
But obviously that's not going to be as accessible to everybody as the icing sugar.
Right.
So, Ron, in your capacity as bee inspector for Herefordshire, and
yes,
your close links to all all of the inspectors, this isn't something that you've heard about.
I've never heard that icing sugar is bad for bees.
No, okay.
I mean, it's interesting because in some natural beekeeping circles, icing sugar is considered a treatment for varroa because it encourages grooming behaviour, right? Because they don't like it, so they want to get it off each other.
Sure. Yeah.
But of course, the natural beekeepers would be the first to say do stuff that's not bad for the bee. So I'd be I'm confused as to where this might have come from, this idea that it's bad for the bees.
It's the first. Claire brought it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading about it, and they it was on probably an American. It's for new beekeeping. It's a forum, and it was mentioned there. And I know that I've always worked in confectionery, and I know it's fairly recently that they've added the corn flour as the anti-caking agent in the icing sugar. So, I mean, not as in the last couple of years, the last several years, but they have changed the recipe on icing sugar. So it's just a whether.
It's horrible.
So I don't. It's just.
I mean, is American icing sugar the same as British icing sugar?
But Claire, you've been in the industry, so it sounds like you know about it, yeah?
Well, I know that they changed the icing sugar as they've changed sort of many other things.
Okay.
Cheapening, etc., etc. So I just wondered whether there was, any info on that.
Well, it sounds like we don't have any info on it.
Yeah, no, that's a new one on me. What were they specifically saying it was bad? In what way was it bad?
That corn flour is not good for, that the sugar is acceptable. We feed it, and I'm not sure whether they were using the icing sugar to dissolve it as well for the bees to eat, but it's the corn flour which they were concerned about.
What, but being bad in what way? Like producing what kind of effects?
That it's poison. I don't know, poisonous, toxic to bees.
So causes dysentery, possibly.
The corn, possibly, yes, that was what it was.
Okay, that's interesting.
What's in royal icing sugar? To use royal icing sugar instead of your bolts.
Well, it's the icing sugar that you buy in the supermarkets. They've got the anti-caking, and you're right, Bronwyn. That's what they were saying. It was causing the dysentery.
I don't know. I mean, for the people who regularly or semi-regularly do icing sugar varroa test on their bees, have they ever noticed dysentery subsequently? I mean, obviously this is like a small anecdotal sample, but
at the end of the day, it's 300 bees, isn't it? It's only 300 bees. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not something that I've ever noticed. In fact, I gotta say, and I don't know if this is to do with there being less nosema susceptible bees these days, but like dysentery is not something that I see very often.
Well, it was diarrhea, yucky. That was what they were commenting on.
I think many people, particularly in America, don't just treat 300 bees. They sprinkle it over the top of the frame, the frames, down the seams.
Yeah, I'm reading like sociology of beekeeping articles at the moment for my dissertation, and one of them was these two authors have been spending time with like rooftop beekeepers in Brooklyn and New York, and they included a picture of a woman like sprinkling icing sugar on the colony, saying like, and here is beekeeper X treating her bees for varroa with icing sugar. And I was like, this is why it's really problematic for sociologists to write about beekeeping, because if you just like go into a group of beekeepers with no background knowledge, then everything that they say, as far as you know, is true, when quite possibly it's a load of rubbish. And I was like, oh, for goodness sake, this is sort of like in an internationally recognised journal, and it's quite
there
annoying.
you go, bro. It's what you know, which is important.
I didn't even know there was anything in icing sugar apart from icing sugar. So I've just had a look. It's not something I've ever done with my bees, and it's something called tricalcium phosphate is what they add to it. So I don't know.
What does it do to us?
Who knows? But it's interesting to see it there. I just thought it was sugar.
Phosphate. Phosphates aren't good for us, are they?
Tricalcium phosphate, it's called.
Thank you, Claire. That's very interesting. A bit of citizen science with Brecon Radnor beekeepers here. Right. Well, thank you everyone for the icing sugar. Anyone? Have we finished with icing sugar? Do you think? Yes. Okay. Anybody else got a question
pudding, Chris?
What was that?
Now you finished your curry. You could have some icing sugar for your pudding.
No, I've turned it away. Sorry.
Okay.
Bronwyn, did you want to mention something about Propolis?
Oh yeah. Again, something that I've been reading for my dissertation. Someone said that the removal of propolis by beekeepers is detrimental to bees because propolis, when ingested by bees, can boost their immune system. And it had to be ingested by bees. And I was wondering if anybody had ever seen bees eating propolis, or if people think that bees consume propolis.
Yes.
Sorry, Anne, did you say yes?
Well, yes, we've one hive that produces it as if it's going out of fashion. And if you take off the queen excluder where it's all been sealed, you will see the other bees then actually working round on the propolis.
But are they ingesting it?
Well, you tell me.
I can't see.
I don't carry my microscope with me, but
there you go.
They are all over it.
It's true. I mean, Bronwyn asked me this question, right? All I know is that before this meeting is that to make propolis, bees collect resin, right? And they supposedly mix it with saliva and beeswax to make propolis. Right?
Yeah.
And if you know anything about the gut of the bee, they have what's called a proventriculus, which is a filter. They've got the honey gut, and then they've got this filter that stops things going into its stomach. Now, they're chewing this up and they're making this propolis. Are they ingesting it? I don't know. So I'm saying to Bron, look, does the research say that they've looked inside the bee and found propolis? Have they found resin inside a bee in its gut?
I'm going to have to go back because I don't know if it's the insinuation is that because obviously they produce the propolis like they do with everything using their mouths, whether that or if they noticed an improvement in bees' immunity on feeding them like candy infused with propolis, which obviously wouldn't be quite the same thing. But so I was just wondering if anybody, because the reason I sort of thought about it is the picture that I can't remember who it was put that picture of a queen eating a little bit of a snack of honey, and I have looked in thousands of colonies of honeybees and I've never seen a queen feed herself. So that was quite a revelation for me.
Wow, yeah, that's interesting, Bron.
So so I thought, I wonder if because and you know this is the thing about beekeeping is that you can learn something from anybody. Everyone's got something interesting and valuable to contribute to everybody's beekeeping, knowledge and wisdom. So I wondered if anybody else had seen, could say, yes, I have seen bees eating propolis.
Ron, they chew it, right? That's how they make it. But
yeah.
Do they ingest it?
Yeah, that's
we can't tell.
Unless
you dissect them and look under the microscope.
Yeah. You'd have to look inside, but as I say, on this colony of ours being on the tops of the bars, you can see them constantly. So whether it's just picking it up and moving it and putting it back where they want it, but surely if it's going into the mouth, there must be a bit of something.
Yeah, my thoughts are they're ingesting. They must be ingesting a bit of it, and it's good for them and all sorts. I make propolis tincture and I ingest it. What it does to me, I'm not quite sure. But
I wonder what that answers a lot of questions.
What was that?
That answers a lot of questions.
Good, I'm glad. I've got stripes on my back. No, I haven't.
I couldn't comment on that.
Oh, well, yeah, see. Bron, what I'm thinking is there are beekeepers who farm propolis, right?
Yeah.
Now, maybe if you take all of the propolis they make out of the hive, that might have a big effect on those bees in that hive.
I also wonder about, because obviously the propolis, the part of the reason that they make it is to ensure that their nest is sealed and to improve the thermoregulation of the nest. Exactly. So I wonder if actually the removal of propolis, rather than sort of to do with the bee's gut health or whatever, is maybe it's got more to do with the colony's ability to kind of keep everything at a regular temperature and moisture level, humidity, and that stresses them, or it's kind of something like that maybe.
I think it's I think it is. I mean, people have always said over the centuries it's the medicine of the hive, and I do believe, and propolis tincture is quite well known if you've got a sore throat.
Yeah, it's not something that we make. I was talking to a beekeeper who passed away earlier this year who said that when he lived in France or had a house in France, and he'd go there for a few months of the year and come back, and said he was always amazed by how much in France how much use they make of all the different hive products, and in comparison in the UK, like we like our squeezy teddy runny honey. And that's like kind of where it, the culture of like honey and bee product appreciation is a bit weak, and they don't. And like if you go to Spain in the pharmacy, like a regular pharmacy, you can buy like Propolis sweets and stuff like that for your sore throat. And no, just like not we don't do it, do we? But then I do think that bees, that is one thing that people breed bees for, isn't it? Is low propolis production. That's a thing, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's not something that worries me. I like propolis, although it does make me very sticky. I had to change my gloves at the Wern last week because they got so sticky. But I think propolis is fantastic, and it's something that's very under researched. I think bees use it as their medicine. They use it, as you said, to block all the cracks, the thermoregulation, and basically, for me, they use it to rough up the sides of the walls. If you look in an old oak tree, that they've got they line the walls with propolis, as Tom Seeley, researcher at Cornell University, tells us, and that helps with condensation of water, so they don't lose the water from the hive, particularly in an oak tree. And I've seen propolis on the walls of polystyrene hives, which is why one of the reasons I like polystyrene hives is when they're getting the moisture off the nectar, it rises in the chimney, it comes down the walls and it condenses, and they can use that water. They haven't got to use energy to go and get water. They've got it on the walls of the hive, and they use propolis to help with that, to make it rough. Well, I don't know. I might have got that slightly wrong, but anyway, it's
so it sort of collects.
Actually, I think I got that slightly. I got it the wrong way around. They use the propolis to make it smooth, because water condenses on smooth surfaces far easier than it does on rough. So I got that the wrong way around.
Right. So wooden will probably be better then, would it?
Well, they need a rough surface to put the propolis on. Inside an oak tree isn't smooth if it's a hollow. Yeah, but they make it smooth with propolis, apparently.
Can I just?
I'm leaving now. My pizza's ready, so I'm going to go. So
Claire, thanks. Yeah.
I hope to join you next time.
Thanks for coming, Claire. That's great.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, I hope to see you all soon. Bye.
But back to the ingesting, I think we should go back to the researcher, Bron. I'm a little bit disturbed. As I said to you, I thought maybe it was the natural beekeepers trying to have a go. But I do, we say we crack the hive open. We're cracking it open. The bees take several days to recover from us cracking the hive open. Of course, and what do we teach? We teach people to look at their bees every week. Why do we do that? Because they don't want them to swarm. Okay, that's the reason. It's a fair enough thing to do. And also, you're looking at the health. You're looking at how they're growing. You're looking at all sorts of things.
And I think also, if you don't look at your bees, or I mean, and this is a ideological point of view, it's by no means like right or wrong, but it's definitely like a sort of a philosophy, I suppose, beekeeping. Like, if you don't look at your bees, what do you get out of beekeeping?
Ron, I look at my bees many times a day, right? But I don't necessarily go through them. You can learn a lot. I talked about the bearding of bees earlier on, and what do you get from when you see your bees bearding out the front? You get they're telling you a number of things. But it's only if you've then got to look inside to see what they're telling you, right? And often it's that they run out of space, or in fact they'll actually do it as they're drawing comb at the top, and because it gets quite hot on a hot night, the bees will come out the front because they're getting hot.
Yeah.
Right. So bearding bees can tell you a number of things, but you can learn a lot from outside the hive when you're looking. But I only do that because I've been through hundreds and thousands of bee hives in my experience. So you get to learn from the outside of the hive potentially what's going on. I said earlier I put in a frame of larvae into a hive. I noticed the hive had become quite quiet on the outside. Telltale sign. It's swarmed, right? Often it tells you. They tell you what they're doing. But then of course you go in. But yeah, okay, come back. The beginner has to go through the hive. I don't dispute that. But cracking a hive open, I believe, is detrimental to the hive.
Once I told you we haven't seen any eggs. We're sure that the queen is laying eggs, and they seem very happy. But as soon as we've seen the queen, we then close up.
I think in your case it's good. You're checking for growth, and you can check by seams of bees. You know, you can actually just look. Checking the queen's great, but you know, at some point later in the season when you're not worried about them swarming, you can just open the top up and see how many seams of bees there are. You know,
Yeah.
and they're telling you how much space they've got or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even if they've got seams and they're bearding out of the front, they're sort of telling you that they might need some more space.
I think it's more important for a beginner to regularly look at your hives.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter kind of that you're knocking them back to a certain extent, but you're learning all the time. But when you're as experienced as Chris, and you can tell far more kind of what's happening in your hive by looking at the entrance and by listening, then you can stop inspecting as much.
You know, I don't get it right. My bees will swarm, you know, but
it does.
You know, I'm not too worried about that. I'll collect them if they're easy to collect. But
can I ask a question? When your bees swarm, you collect them, do you put them back where they came from?
No.
No.
Oh no.
You put them in a nuke then?
I put them in another apiary. They can abscond when they swarm. They want to go far away from the parent colony. I can hear somebody else talking in the background. Sorry, but I don't know if they were out saying something. But when they swarm, they swarm quite a long way from the parent colony. They don't want to compete with the parent colony.
Okay.
So I will take them to another apiary. If you do, you can keep them in your apiary. But what I'd say is put them in a nuke box, but put the queen excluder on the front. Right, that stops the queen coming out. So they may want to swarm, but they can't because the queen can't get out. And they will eventually go back in and stay there.
Maybe we should have just left him.
Okay. Okay.
Hello,
Tom. What was that? Did Tom say something?
No, I did, but I was just agreeing. We had one that swarmed, and we put the queen excluder at the bottom under the brood box.
Yeah.
And left them for 3 days, and there was very little movement. And we happened to say, well, we'll just check them, and looked, and the majority of the bees were
underneath
for the queen excluder.
Yeah.
And we thought, oh, poor bees. Typical newbies thinking, well, we maybe shouldn't have the queen excluder. Took it off, all the bees went in, and within 2 hours they'd gone again. The motto is, if you put a queen excluder somewhere, leave it for a bit.
Yep. But of course, the flip side is this: if it's a virgin queen in there, right, at some point you've got to let her out to mate.
Oh no, it was the bee queen.
All right.
But if she was a virgin queen, couldn't she get out anyway?
No, it's based on the thorax. I know. The size of the thorax. The size of the thorax of a virgin queen is big enough so that she can't get out. In theory, there was who showed something. Who was it?
Somebody did where the queen got out.
Yeah, he did. Who was it?
Yeah.
Who showed that? I think it was using a Chinese queen excluder, possibly. So possibly the gaps are a bit bigger. But somebody showed a video of a queen coming out of a queen excluder. But a virgin queen shouldn't be able to get through a queen excluder. Not a good sized queen anyway.
Right. Okay.
You get very small queens, which go anywhere. It can be a pain.
I've got one of those at the moment.
I thought you were going to say something, Pete.
Yeah.
We had one at the Wern. We had a queen. I remember with Pete 5-6 years ago. We were searching through a double brood, and there was larvae above the queen excluder and below it, and there was larvae all over the place. We were thinking, how can this be? Eggs in both above and below. So we found the queen down below. That was okay. And then we spent ages and ages, and eventually we found a tiny dark queen, and almost the same size as the bees. And there she was. Anyway, so you can get very small queens that you can't see and can very rarely find. Okay, so should we? It's coming up to 9 o'clock. I don't know if anybody wants to say anything else.
Yeah, I've got a question.
Pete, yep.
What do you use for your Propolis tincture, vodka or gin?
Vodka.
What?
What do you use, Anne?
No, not guilty yet.
Okay.
We were gonna ask you how to make this tincture, but I don't drink, you see.
You don't drink, Tom?
No.
But it's tincture, it's not proper drink.
No. It's
They put vodka in it.
yeah. I mean, you
Did
can't.
you just dissolve the propolis in the alcohol? Is it just that?
Well, yeah. Well, vodka is alcohol. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
that's what I mean.
But yeah, you buy the strongest alcohol you can, and actually the propolis doesn't dissolve. It kind of you leave it for a number of months, and gradually the color and the essence of the propolis gets into the alcohol.
Can you use spring water? Because a lot of the batch flower remedies oh, hang on, I'm wrong there. They do use alcohol, don't they?
Yeah.
No.
Are you talking about mead? Maybe. I don't know.
No, the batch flower remedies when they
Batch
do the
flower, Bach flower, Bach flower. Yeah, yeah. Yes.
Rescue remedy is alcohol, but the other ones, are they alcohol or spring water?
I'm not sure. Sorry.
Alcohol.
They're
So-
alcohol.
So Chris, there's your next thing you can do. You can write a paper on how to make this.
Yes, please. I'd be interested to know how to make propolis tincture.
Yes. Okay. I think a paper, a few words maybe. Actually, who? Katrina, I think, might be the best person to do that. Probably. Katrina Mirrlees. You may not have met her, but she's very good at all those kinds of things. A lot of you don't know Katrina? No.
No.
Okay.
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 Taste today, I think. I did.
What was that, Pete?
Is she coming to the taste today?
Hopefully, yeah. I don't know. I've not seen any communication from her. Yeah. So those of you who don't know, we're having a taste today on the 15th of July at Llanview Hall. Mainly for people who, it's for the public really, anybody who's interested in bees and beekeeping but hasn't started yet. The flyer will be in the Y local and the Brecon Beacon in July's copy. And actually, Bronwyn, you put it on Facebook already, haven't you? I think.
Yeah, it's had a bit of interest so
Yes.
far. So
Good stuff.
hopefully we'll have some.
So that
When's,
be a
when's
place-
the course? When's the course starting
What course is this? What course?
for next year? The new course for newbies.
Oh, it's usually the second Saturday in April, I think. That's the course, Claire, yeah?
Yeah.
The taste today we're talking about is 15th of July.
But that's trying to get people for the course. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Well, yeah, and just generally, showing people about bees. I mean, there was a thing in the news today about a swarm of bees somewhere in Coventry, was it, on the outside of a bin? No, in Glasgow. It was in Glasgow.
Glasgow.
And it was even on. Who said that? Was that Rich?
Yeah.
And I heard it on with Evan Davis on the radio, but he was going to say, "And we're going to tell you what you should do," but I didn't hear that bit. But I think what you should do really is contact your local beekeeper, and that's what they did. But it's getting people familiar with bees and beekeeping, and they may want to come on the course.
Yeah. Okay.
One last.
Oh, hang on.
Can I ask? Do we know what dates the other little sessions for
Yes.
the beginners course are going to be?
Can you remember them, Bron?
Oh yes, they're in my calendar. Hang on a second.
Thank you.
Hang on, I've got to get a pen and paper.
We will be putting them out on by email soon. I think Liz is just making sure that she can book the hall and things at the moment.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
okay.
our last booking is made now, isn't it, for the varroa workshop?
Okay. Yeah.
So, on the next thing will be on the 2nd of August in the evening at Llanview Hall, and that will be the varroa treatment class. So the sort of second half of, we did the sort of introduction to varroa life cycle, etc. This will be the looking at the treatments because it's quite a big, broad topic. So, and then that Saturday the 5th is the extraction day at the Jubilee Hall. But don't worry about writing this all down because we will send you I'll make a sort of list and send it on the beginners group chat on WhatsApp. But just and then the following Saturday at the Wern, the guys will be applying the varroa treatments. So it'll be really good for you all to go along to that class on the 12th. to the Wern and see, you know, how it's done in real life.
Bron, can I just add, this coming Saturday, we're going to be doing, Roger is going to be doing grafting for queen rearing. And that is aimed at beginners up onwards, anybody, but beginners included.
Right.
All right, so what's the date? This is the 1st of July, I think it is.
I can't come, I'm afraid.
Time?
I'm not
2
able to come. I would
2
love
o'clock. 2 o'clock. Sophia can't come? No.
No,
sorry.
I can't. I'm not able to come. I'm sorry. My
It's okay.
sheep.
No problem. We'll do it again next year, but this is probably the last time we'll do it this year.
Okay.
Bronwyn, over to you. Sorry.
Oh yeah, and then the next thing is the Llyswan Honey Show, which that's for everybody. It's not really one of the extended beginners course events, but I think it'll be really nice for everybody to come along to. And there will be some info about how you can enter, Chris. Is that right? At some point.
It's already online. The Llyswan and Bochrod. Pete shared it with. Did you share that on the committee one, Pete? Yeah,
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's Llyswan and Bochrod's show, and it's already online. But I will share it soon with everybody.
Yeah, that'd be really.
Or maybe Pete. Pete, would you share that? I can share it.
Yeah. I'll put it on the WhatsApp here.
Brilliant. Thanks. Yeah. You better send it by email as well, because not everybody's on the WhatsApp. Right, I'll arrange that. I'll do that. The email bit.
One last question.
Hang on, Tom. Go on then. I think Bron's got some more dates, but if you carry on, yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a couple more things. So in September, Saturday the 23rd, we'll have a feeding day. So that's to introduce people to sort of the different types of feeders, how to feed, what to feed, etc. How to know if you need to feed. In practice. And then on the 4th of November, which is Saturday, we'll have a wax processing day at the Jubilee Hall. So show you how to melt, filter, collect, what to do with, etc. Your beeswax. And then so those are those extended.
Ron, just to add to that, the extraction day, the week before, we'll be taking the supers off. Following that, we usually do the varroa treatment of those hives. Now,
it's a bit early.
Well, it's after taking off the David. It's when David does it, but we'll talk to David about that. But beginners can come along to that when we do it, but we should communicate that, I think.
Yeah, definitely good for people to know.
Yeah,
so they can just how the clearing boards work and all of that kind of stuff.
Well, not just I'm thinking of the clearing boards, but also when we do apply for the treatment. Are you suggesting that we're doing it in September? Sorry.
No, the 12th of August. I've got it down.
What's that?
The varroa treatments go on at the Wern type thing.
Right. Okay. Ignore what I just said. Sorry, Tom. Did you want to say something? Sorry, cut you off.
A question for your people who are more into horticulture and stuff. We have 2 big fields of beans up next to us.
Lucky you.
Field beans.
Lucky you, yeah, lucky you.
Do they get the honey off of them?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, because some people say yes, and some people go, "Oh no."
Well, I guess it's like anything, isn't it? It's got to be warm enough for them to secrete nectar. But
yeah.
Field beans are traditionally a honey plant. Roger's got some next to you, haven't you, Rog? Yeah, he's nodding. Yeah, you muted, Rog. Anyway,
he's nodding.
I don't think they're flowering yet, though. Anyway, so no, you should get honey off them, Tom.
Yeah, they're definitely flowering.
But right,
it's cold up here.
It's cold up there, but it will also granulate quickly.
Oh, great. Oh no! I'm going to put a picture.
You can make your super soft honey, your super smooth honey.
I'm not sure it does granulate.
Okay, all right, there we are then.
What was that?
Roger,
I'm not sure it does granulate. I think it stays clear, I think.
Oh, Roger, you're a saint, Roger.
I was just testing you, Tom.
I don't know from experience, because it's the first time I've had field beans. So I'll let you know later. But I've seen the bees on them.
Right. We've had one experience with oilseed rape, and I don't want another one. Thank you.
Anybody know what the bean family is?
Beans.
Okay, thanks.
They're legumes, aren't they?
Yes, but are they related to cabbage? Are they related to the cabbage family?
No.
No.
Okay. Who are they?
Brassicas.
Okay. Sorry. What
Cabbages
are
are
brassicas?
brassicas and beans are legumes.
Right. Okay. There we are. Then. So brassicas granulate, definitely.
Clover will granulate as well, won't it?
What will?
Clover.
Yeah, a lot of honey. Anything that's got more glucose than fructose will granulate at some point, and it's a sign of good quality honey. But you don't want it rock hard before it comes off the hive, which brassicas will do. Right then. So Tom, we'll wait for you to let us know if it granulates or not.
Yeah, we'll be listening to Roger.
Okay, should we finish there? Anybody got a question? What's it? 9:10, 8 minutes past 9. Penny, are you okay? We've not heard from Penny.
She's muted.
I know. Rich, you all right?
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you for joining.
Great session. I was actually about to post something to the thing saying what a really great, healthy session with lots of good questions. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
So,
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you very much. It's very helpful as a beginner. It's really helpful to have you guys to talk to.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Well, thank you for that. That's great. And it's an enjoyable thing to do. So maybe we'll have another one in a month or so. Let's see how it goes.
Oh.
Rightio, folks. Thanks. I'm going to end the meeting now.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Bye. Everybody.